So, good morning, everyone. I'm Ms. Swati Agrawal, Assistant Professor in the School of Media and Communication at University. I welcome you all to the plenary discussion in International Conference on Media and Communication. This conference has been organized by the School of Media and Communication at University in collaboration with Manipur University, American International University of Bangladesh, DME Noida, JCRC University, Jaipur, Global Media Education Council, and SMX Network, who is our media partner. So we'll begin with a quote by Marshall McLuhan. He said, "The new media are not ways of relating to us, the real world. They are the real world, and they reshape what remains of the old world." Today's session is an effort to have a discussion on the new media landscape of India, to uncover the trends, to ponder upon the issues which trouble the society, and to trace the future path. It is my honor to introduce you to the leaders of Indian media education. I begin by introducing Professor K.G. Suresh. Professor K.G. Suresh is the Vice Chancellor of Makhanlal Chaturvedi University of Journalism and Communication, Bhopal. He is the former Director General of Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Founder Dean School of Modern Media, University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, a senior journalist, communication strategist, and the recipient of the prestigious Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi Award for Outstanding Contribution to Journalism by the Government of India. He also has an extensive experience of working with Doordarshan News, Asianet News Network, and Press Trust of India. Professor Usha Rani N. is presently a member of Karnataka Higher Education Council, Government of Karnataka, Bangalore. She is a former professor and Dean of Faculty of Arts in the University of Mysore, a winner of American Fulbright Fellowship twice and ICSSR International Fellowship. She was also awarded 2 national awards for Best Educational Television Documentaries. She has worked on major research projects funded by UGC and has many books and research publications to her credit. Dr. Amrish Saxena is the professor and dean in DME Education, Noida. He is a journalist turned media educator and has worked on all media platforms, print, radio, television, and digital. Dr. Saxena is associated with several research projects of All India Radio, World Health Organization. He has organized many seminars, conferences in association with UNESCO, ICSSR, and the Akin University, Australia, and is an active researcher with several books to his credit. Dr. Ruchi K. Jaggi is the professor and director at Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication and Dean of the Faculty of Media and Communication, Symbiosis International University, Pune. Her experience as an eminent educationist spanning around 2 decades has won her several awards for her research in popular culture, media, and children television studies, emerging discourses of identity on the new media. She is the vice chair of the Media Education Research section of the IAMCR and the vice president of the Indian Association of Media and Communication Educators. Professor Sonal Pandya presently heads the Department of Communication and Journalism, Central University of Gujarat. She is also the director of Center of Excellence for Communication in Social and Behavior Change in partnership with UNICEF. She has held various other respectable posts as an advisory committee member for All India Radio and Doordarshan, Selection Procedure Committee for UPSC, and a designing committee member at a cooperation project between Government of India and Swiss Confederation. Dr. Pooja Mahesh is currently working as Associate Professor at School of Media and Communication, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Dubai. She has about 2 decades of experience in teaching and research and was formerly associated with the APJ Institute of Mass Communication, New Delhi. She has also published research papers in various international and national journals and serves as a reviewer of Sage journals. Dr. Arpan Yagnik is an associate professor of advertising communication at the Pennsylvania State University. He has actively conducted research on the issue of inequality and has been an advocate for menstrual health since 2009. He also initiated Keep It Flowing, a local campaign in Bowling Green, which provided free menstrual hygiene products to women in need. Along with his work in health and development communication, he is more and more interested in conducting research in the areas of advertising and marketing. So I take the opportunity to introduce the moderator of the session today, Professor Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary, who is the Executive Director of International Online University, Dubai, and Strategic Advisor and Professor, Daffodil International University. Formerly, he was the Pro Vice Chancellor of Arduous University, Dean of School of Media, Arduous University, Pearl Academy, Amity University, Whistling Woods International. Apart from this, he has a varied experience of working in the media industry. So, sir, I hand over the session to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Swati. And it's so interesting that our speakers and me are from 3 different countries and I think 8 different cities. What can be far more interesting than that? And then there is an audience in front as well. So to the host, I'll request that for as and when each speaker speaks, please highlight that speaker so that we can listen to him or her and also have a good clear visibility of the speaker. So I take it a privilege that I've been asked to moderate a session which decidedly has some of the best media educators, not just to scratch our back. I mean what I'm saying. Some of the best media educators of Indian origin, whether in India or out of India. So I just would not like to make a lot of comments at the very beginning. I'd like to just mention that the topic new media landscapes, dimensions, issues, and future, trends and future, this can be looked at from various angles. You can be speaking about new media or new media. Depending on the stress of 2 words, the meaning might change. So, and you can look at from various angles, also from the functions of media. As we know, there are 5 platforms of media. The offline, traditional one, the print, which was quite dominant in the 20th century, later part of 20th century, or the on-air, which is radio and television, that came into prominence from 1995 onwards. I'm happy that I was a part of that initial stage as a part of Z News team. And then it moved on to almost this century's, till this moment. Some would say that television is still dominating, but from the pandemic period, 2020 onwards, the digital has come to the forefront. So that's online media. Along with that, we know on ground medium, anything that we do on ground, either in a physical space as events or roadshows or whatever, or in a hybrid space just like this. There are youngsters who are at Adamus face to face, and there are a good number of people online as well, and all speakers are online. So there's phygital or hybrid way. And then there is the mobile, on mobile medium. We have brought the whole world in the mobile. We went to the world to see it. Today we're seeing the world through the mobile. So there are 5 platforms, and the functions to inform, journalism, to entertain, film, television, and to persuade, advertising, public relations, and all that. Now they're all moving to interact and engage. Whether it's journalism, entertainment, or persuasion, the currency is now the engagement. How much, how many, and to what extent can you engage your audiences? So this is where we are moving. And I would also like to say that before internet, we were talking in terms of print, television, radio. Post-internet, we started talking in terms of digital media. Now we are face to face with another reality. And for the last, let's say, a few months onwards, and by 2025, hopefully, this will be the dominant reality. We are moving to an age of artificial intelligence and metaverse, which will completely change the face of communication. To what extent, we'll know in future. With this background or initial comments, not getting into the specific topics that all of our panelists should speak, I first invite Professor K.G. Suresh the Vice Chancellor of Makhanlal Chaturvedi University, a national university on media and communication, Asia's first and the largest media and communication university situated in Bhopal. He has just now opened a fabulous campus that I had the privilege of going and visiting. He is also the president of Global Media Education Council. So Professor K.G. Suresh, the new media in the context of journalism. For your words, please. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Am I audible, Professor Ujjwal?
You are very much audible, visible, everything is clear. I can hear you far from Shulini University also. You are speaking from Bhopal.
Okay. Very good afternoon to all my esteemed friends whom I can see on the on my laptop. So many of them are here today, and a happy Ram Navami and Navratri to all of you. And my compliments to Adamas University for hosting this very important conference on an auspicious day. When Ujjwal spoke about new media, for me, I would like to talk about the media landscape, of the media in its entirety and not just new media. Because media, including television, continues to play a very critical role in our lives. The print media also. So I would not like to confine myself to the digital media. So let me, read out some statistics which are there with almost all of us. 900 television channels, over 550 radio stations, 100 million registered publications, 560 million people using the internet, 400 million on the WhatsApp, 260 million on Facebook, 200 million used TikTok before it was banned, 80 million have Instagram accounts, Telegram has 30 million active users and 12 million Twitter accounts. What an exciting time for media in India. And on the other hand, you have seen a very pathetic sight of live television coverage of a gangster urinating while being taken en route to, for his court. He's being produced before a court. So you can very well see this huge, what should I say, a divide between technology and content, which is pathetic. And you can see a lot of people beating their chests about the level to which media has stooped, where somebody answering nature's call is being covered live on television by not any cable television channel, any small-time fly-by-the-night operator, but perhaps a television which claims to have the largest number of subscribers. It was such a pathetic sight. This is symbolic of what the Indian media is fast getting into. I'm an optimist. I was on the recent jury of the Ramnath Goenka Excellence Awards, and we awarded some of the finest stories, including the story of bodies floating on the Ganges during COVID, of how the media, not just media, but also how you had, Dharavi, which is the world's largest Islam, Asia's largest Islam, how the COVID was managed there, all kinds of stories which involved a lot of personal sacrifices, commitment, dedication. These stories were rewarded. So it's a situation where you have, on the one hand, technology which has taken deep roots in India. On the other hand, you have the trivialization of media, which has been a phenomena right from the outset, particularly the electronic media. You had the ghosts and the serpent stories, and then, of course, the Rakhi Sawant stories, which was the topic of discussion for a long time. And then, on the other hand, you have some of these stories which are being done by youngsters, whether it is digital, print, or electronic. And I'm happy to note that a lot of these good stories are being covered in the language media. And this is something which is really, because that is where the crowd is today. That is where a majority of our viewership is there, a majority of our readership is there, listenership is there. So in language media, you see a lot of good content taking place. Unfortunately, we don't have a mechanism of translating them into, into stories for the national audience, for a pan-India audience. So I have seen, because I've been on the jury of so many award selection committees, so we get entries from all over. That is where my hope stems. When I see a lot of these stories coming from the hinterland, coming from, Telangana, coming from Tamil Nadu, coming from Kashmir, these stories give me a lot of hope that journalism is still alive and kicking. But the general perception is that while we have become technology driven, we are losing out on content. The content has become trivia. This is something which is of concern to us as media educators also.
Professor Suresh, we will come in the second round again. Right. Thanks for the opening round and very pertinent points. Can I put a question for your introspection on which you can come in the second round? How will the newer technologies, including artificial intelligence, impact journalism? And how can the quality and content of good journalism be ensured under such situation going ahead? On this, we'll come to you. As I requested everyone, we'll have 5 to 6 minutes first round and then again a second round. And carrying on with the pace with which what Professor Suresh very rightly pointed out, the dichotomy between bad quality journalism and great quality journalism, in spite of technological revolution happening in media. Very good and pertinent point. In continuity with the same, I now call Professor Usha Rani, a doyen of development communication, development journalism in this country. If you could speak in the context of development journalism, how the new media, the new technologies are working, and how development communication is evolving for good or for worse. What are your observations on that? For the next 6 minutes, Professor Dr. Usha Rani. Unmute yourself, ma'am. Unmute yourself. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Is it me?
Yes.
It's my turn. Oh, okay. I had lost the audio, and therefore I couldn't just connect with you. Namaskar.
Next 6 minutes. Yes.
Namaskar. This is a great opportunity to interact with my fraternity on a very important and relevant topic in the context of media. I congratulate at the outset Adamas University, Kolkata, for this initiative and giving us a platform to reflect on certain vital issues of new media and to have a dialogue on this several issues. I respected Chair Professor Chaudhary and my colleagues and beloved students. I have been asked by the committee to speak on new media landscape in development communication. And this is, I'll make a brief presentation in the first round. Uh, as all of you know, we today new media has compelled us to revisit development communication because the forces are so strong that we need to examine the concept, philosophy, theoretical framework, the technology, and its impact, effect, and the influence on development communication. So the landscape is changing, new things are evolving. So it is the new media. We attribute this all these changes to the emergence of new media. And at the outset, I wish to clarify on certain aspects of development communication briefly, with which all of us are familiar. One is the concept of development. Today, the very concept of development, the perception of development has undergone transformation. Earlier, it was attributed to economic performance, money being the only criterion to measure development. But today, it is not materialism or the economic growth. That is one of the variables. But the other transformation that we see in development is the public choice theory. So this takes us to what Amartya Sen has said. He has given us a new philosophy of development. He has defined development as freedom. So he talks about the choice. Do we have the choice? Do we have a level playing field in development? So we are examining the basic principles and the basic theory and the basic philosophy of development with Amartya Sen's new perspective of freedoms. And he calls it freedoms. So there are different freedoms, including political freedom and the freedom of choice. It may be the RTE, where the children of the marginalized, do they have a level playing field? Do they get a seat in the upmarket school? What is their choice? And do they have the opportunity? So we have seen that development is multidimensional, it is non-linear, and it is not about poverty. Development is not about poverty because all the theories have written volumes of theories on this concept of poverty, and they have come to the conclusion, inference. They have drawn this inference that poverty is the deprivation. So we have in development communication, we are addressing the opportunities, the deprivation, the choices. So this is a liberal perspective. So we have, because it supports freedom from oppression, freedom from injustice, freedom from inequality. So what is development communication? Briefly, it is not transmitting the message, simple transmission of message or exchange of development message. It's not a transmission model no longer. And it is not even sharing of information. We don't stop at that because development communication is a platform and that enables people to make their choices. That is development communication. And we are referring to the marginalized people. We are who determine their own course of life. All development, as all of you know, aims to improve human lives. And with communication, we expect some behavior change. We expect some change in behavior. So development communication is all about ensuring opportunities and choices. So that requires participatory approach. So we have seen the participatory model where it is not just restricted to the target people. It is not just marginalized people who are participating, but those who are governing. The governance is also a participant in this participatory approach. So development communication, the other perspective, as all of you know, is empowerment. So it is multidimensional as well as multidisciplinary, because communication itself, media itself cannot handle this process of empowerment. So if you say, we all, under the assumption, we were under the misconception that mass media would deliver, would empower, but we forgot in the process that it is a multidisciplinary process where we require the expertise of psychology, sociology. So we need integration of several other disciplines at the grassroots level to reach the community and to seek their empowerment. So and also briefly, I'll touch on this, that the development process is a political process. It undergoes political process because Hebama says what media is supposed to do. It is supposed to do the be part of political communication. That is the dominant narrative of any mass media. That ought to be the dominant narrative, he says. So everything, whether it is religion or anything, even development undergoes political process. We are in social democracy. So the media, the new media which we are talking about freedom. So it comes under the paradigm of social democracy, which professes democratic beliefs. So we have narratives, we have discourses. Do we have those opportunities in social democracy with the media, with the powerful media? And history of development communication shows that from Daniel Lerner's modernization, we have progressed to United Nations, where it was discussed and it was made into a very important important discipline. And a lot of reports were also written under the chairmanship of Wilbur Schramm in the United Nations.
Professor,
Yeah.
Professor Madam, very well begun. We'll have to come in the second round again. And
Okay.
thank you. And I really
just
come in the second round. Will come in. There are 8 speakers, so I have to be balanced.
Just complete this sentence, okay? Because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Just give me 30 seconds, huh? Because I began with modernization theory. I don't want to explain modernization theory because all of you are familiar with that. And then came the UN and the dependency theory, where we were asked to depend on the developed countries for media intervention in development communication. And then we had the participatory paradigm, and now we are in the social and entrepreneurship. Okay, that's what I wanted to say.
Great. The public choice theory and the freedoms as development, a great beginning to the development discourse. DevCom is not just about transmission or sharing of information, but about platform to make choices. A great description. I am reminded of People's Archive of Rural India of P. Sainath as one such platform for the rural people to make choices. We go to the next speaker, but Madam Usharani, when we come to you next time, please speak on how the digital and social media can be positively used for development communication going ahead on this life. I move to the next speaker, Dr. Ambarish Saxena, and one of the platforms of communication which is rarely spoken about. We speak about print, we speak about television, we speak about radio, we speak about advertising, television, we speak about advertising, but we rarely speak about radio. So I would request Dr. Ambarish Saxena to speak about how radio is evolving in the new media landscape, how technologies is impacting upon it, and what possibilities are there. Over to you. Next 6 minutes. I underline 6 minutes, Dr. Ambarish Saxena.
Thank you, Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary. Talking about radio is a medium which we all know. It's a very popular medium. It's an accessible medium, and it's a medium which has always been called the people's medium. But then in today's time, a lot of changes have occurred. Not only exactly currently, but if you want to understand radio, we have to trace to whatever developments have been happening during the last 20 years. Radio has always been initially in the AM mode, and then it's the medium wave, which has always been very popular. But since the time the technological developments started happening, so the most important development that has happened in the arena of radio, that is arrival of FM, frequency modulation. So when in early 1990s FM came, with that new channels started coming. Even the privatization in radio started in 93 itself, much before the privatization happened in the television sector, which came much later or around that time. But then radio, when this FM technology was introduced, so there was a need to have better quality of program, more interactive program, and that is how certain time slots were sold by All India Radio to private sector, and that is how the first private FM radio company emerged on the scene, which started making program for the radio channels of All India Radio. In 97, 98, all these contracts were scrapped, and AIR decided to come to radio on its own as far as the FM channels are concerned. And that is how this privatization policy started. This AIR FM Rainbow started, and then in 2001 this AIR FM Gold started. So this FM brought a big revolution in the broadcasting, in the radio broadcasting. And the final thing happened when this FM technology was introduced in the entertainment sector also. So Vivid Bharati was also put on FM mode, FM technology. So firstly, this Bombay radio station of AIR, that was put on FM. Then this Vivid Bharati Delhi, this was put on FM, and then so many other channels. Now, so FM technology should be understood as a big revolution, and not only FM was focused on urban-centric channels or entertainment channels, but it was also introduced on local radio stations, which was a policy introduced in AIR in late 80s. Then that local radio station went to the backyard. And in the beginning of this century, another important development happened in radio, which we call it community radio. So community radio policy was introduced in the beginning of this century. Twice changes have been introduced, and new policy has been introduced in community radio, and that is also FM based. So FM is being used for urban broadcasting, FM is being used for rural broadcasting. Though as I look at this community radio policy, it has not succeeded the way it should have succeeded, mainly because of the policy lacunas. And the government has completely overlooked the practical aspect of implementation. Now, another important thing that we all know that has affected all the sectors is internet. So when this internet came, everything changed. The television broadcasting changed, the radio broadcasting changed. In between, satellite radio also emerged on the scene in India. Though in today's time we find that the television is mostly satellite based, though that situation is also changing. But I will not talk about television. But in radio also, the satellite radio came in India. Technologically, that was a very big thing that happened to India. But that did not succeed, and that company which was providing satellite radio had to wind up. Why? We should understand this, what two important elements which are associated with radio in India particularly, and that will apply, I believe, in all the developing countries. We are not in a habit of spending anything as far as listening to radio programs are concerned. We are in a habit of listening radio for free. We pay for watching television, we pay for reading the newspaper, but we do not spend a penny in listening to radio program. That's a very strange thing, but this is something which is part of the media economics and the whole relationship of the advertising and the subscription revenue and all. But this is what is the scenario in radio. Now coming to internet, as I refer to internet, what impact internet made on radio, that from broadcasting we shifted to podcasting. So from broadcasting to narrowcasting to podcasting. So now broadcasting in the real sense of the term. Yeah, my time is over.
Dr. Saxena,
Yeah.
we will, exactly that's the topic that we'll take up in the next round. I hope you can spend some more time.
Yeah.
Impact of podcast and social media on the evolution of radio, and how audio is moving to an immersive media experience. What do you think will be the impact of AI and metaverse on radio? So these are the things. I know these are very long answers and long things, but we'll have only 2 minutes next round for you to speak. That was Dr. Ambarish Saxena, the Dean of DME Academy, the founder of CFI Film Festival, an international conference called ICANN, hybrid conference, very successfully done. Also the Secretary of Global Media Education Council. We move to Professor Dr. Ruchi Kher Jaggi, a very well-known name in the field of research on media and culture and media and children. Dr. Ruchi Kher Jaggi, the Dean of Symbiosis in Media and Design. I would like to invite you to speak on media, culture, relationship, and also in the context of children, which is less talked about often. So over to you, Dr. Ruchi Kher Jaggi, for the next 6 minutes, sadly. Only
No problem, sir. Thank you, Professor Chaudhary, and thank you so much to Adamus University for this invite. A very good afternoon to all my co-panelists, Suresh sir in particular, very good afternoon here. And lovely to meet you all, Professor Usha Rani, Professor Yagnik, Professor Saxena, and everybody else. So I think it is very difficult to talk about media and culture as from a very singular point of view, to be able to compress such a big topic in 6 minutes, but I'll try to kind of conceptually bring together some ideas and then focus a little bit on children in particular. To give you a background, I represent Symbiosis. I am the Dean of the Faculty of Media and Communication at Symbiosis, lead one of the better media schools in the country, the Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. And for me, the journey of the last 20 years in media education has also been, like a lot of my other colleagues, it has been a great journey in terms of also the 20 years of how media education has transformed has so much to do with how the media landscape has transformed. And I think those are connections that make us very self-conscious about our position as scholars, because we continue to reflect, be reflexive, and then comment and critically reflect on those transformations, those changes. So I invoke the same discussion that Professor Chaudhary started with. Think about it right now. So I will be somebody who will say that media is not just an industry. It is not just a business system, but I think it's a cultural system. And I think that's where I would like to begin the discussion from. Now, if you look at the contemporary trends that impact the media industry, one of the biggest trends that is getting impacted is that the entire media business models are being revisited. You know, all of a sudden, Professor Chaudhary had referred the word engagement. So suddenly the transaction, the consumer, becomes so important in this business model. So the other important thing is then content recommendations. So far on the OTT platforms, we were looking at AI to support content recommendations. I've watched this show, another recommendation of something similar that I would like. But I think it's going to go beyond. One of the biggest media business changes that has happened is connected televisions, if you think of it. Connected televisions bring linear TV and streaming platforms together. It's a hybrid model, right? Or the sale of connected televisions in India last year has been the highest. And think about the coexistence of traditional as well as new media. Now you have a device where all of this could happen, right? So that's like a very, very interesting development of the media landscape. Yeah. The current media landscape has to be understood more so in terms of transnational consumption, right? We no longer are talking about consumption with an Indian reach. We are talking about global reach. A film which is produced by Netflix but wins an Oscar, right? I'm not talking about just the mainstream Natu Natu song. I'm talking about a documentary like The Elephant Whisperers, which is done in one part of the country. is funded by a transnational streaming platform like Netflix, produced by them, and goes on to win the Oscar, right? Somewhere one has to understand that while all of this is happening, localization, influencer economy, and somewhere young audiences form a very significant part of this triad. And while we talk about the media landscape, we have to understand that transnational consumption, global reach, hyper-localization, influencer economy, and a very, very young demography of India as audiences, as well as content creators, have a significant part to play in all of this. Hence, what's happening is that with and why this context was important to understand everything is that that is how the entire media cultures are being renegotiated, reconfigured, in this very, very interesting, exciting, and multi-layered sort of a manner. So that's one thing to keep in mind as we look at the new media landscape. Of course, children's content in this new media landscape, children's media in this new media landscape is something that has been got impacted significantly. See, this was one content, children's content, which since its inception was international and imported in nature when it comes to India. We were importing 90% of the content. What has happened to children's content in the last 20-25 years is that from 90%, our exports have come down to 30%. We are creating a lot of indigenous content. So this is where the transnational consumption patterns were existing from the very beginning. How are we taking care of it? We were dubbing it. Because any day, dubbing is a far more economical option as compared to producing the content. And this is specifically very important to understand in the context of animation, which is the most popular genre in children's content, right? So, and today, children are consuming so much of this content, not on linear television, but on a lot of exclusive OTT only kind of platforms. One of the earliest OTT platform, which was YouTube, right, which continues to attract the maximum number of children there. And today, children as content creators are creating another kind of digital culture somewhere. So all of this is together. Is my time up, sir?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the point that you brought is from where you can speak the next time. First of all, is the time of Jai Bhim and my friend Ganesha. So much of good content is being produced in India on children. Very well said. I also very much appreciate the point of transnational media consumption that you brought forth, convergent media, multiple media coming together that you brought forth, and very interestingly, influencer economy and hyper localization. Anyone in the audience here, including you and me, if we are asked that let's make a documentary on a couple who takes care of elephants and speaks to them and they can answer, and both of them, the men and the animal, understand one another, everyone would have laughed. Forget getting an Oscar. Initially we would have laughed because we cannot relate that such a concept can relate to the whole world. In fact, that is where the genius of some of the producing companies is. They saw a great value in it, and two ladies, one producer, one director, two ladies have created. This is first time pure Indian production that has got an Oscar. And thank you for mentioning that. The question that we would like to have from you next time, unfortunately next round will be very short, shorter than this. How have OTT, anytime viewing and on-demand media impacted our culture? And in that context, how immersive media is evolving, particularly in children's context, because metaverse will give a completely alternative world for children. So we'll get into that briefly next round. Unfortunately, I have got 8 extraordinary speakers. This should have been a 3-hour panel instead of 1.5 hours. But nevertheless, we'll go ahead with the program. The next speaker I invite Dr. Professor Sonal Pandya, the face of media education in Gujarat and Gujarat University. Surely has been seen across the nation. She is known for her work on media and women. So can we look at your ideas and discussions or views on gender media in the new context of the emerging technologies and whatever is happening in the media landscape? Dr. Sonal Pandya on media and gender.
Thank you. I'm audible?
Yes, perfectly visible and audible.
Ujjwal, you are with Gujarat for a very long time, so Ujjwal Bhai, I can start with the Ujjwal Bhai.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you to Adamas University, ICMC. Hello.
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
So while we talk about the gender and media, it's also a very vast subject. But as a media professor, when I analyze the requirement or the study of the gender and media, we can bifurcate the gender and media study in four different zones. That one is how women issues have been highlighted in media through news and views. Secondly, the portrayal of women in media, especially in entertainment industry. Third, women in advertisement industry. And fourth, women in media houses, where they have been posted and how much the space is women is getting in media industry. So these are the four zones that I can broadly classify while we study and while we talk about the women and media, especially in the context of the Southeast Asian countries. If we talk, then we have to mention, while we talk about the women, we can't generalize our own experience as a universal truth. Because while we talk about women in India, we should always think that we are living many centuries together in India. And that is equally true for the women in India. So which women we are talking about? So the gender and gender related research is equally important while we generalizing the status of Indian women, and which is equally important while we talk about the women and media correlationship. I want to very briefly overview the how we started the research in correlation between gender issues and women. I should start this with the PC Joshi committee report, which was related with the portrayal of women in especially television and radio. And they started with the violence of women. Then gradually we started about the how the media is portraying the gender stereotype in various media platform. Then the concept of superwomen, it is also highlighted with the media research scholar, that how the superwoman concept is highlighted in media. And recently we talk about the women empowerment. It's a very popular word, but I must have some critical view about the portrayal of women empowerment. Recently, this is the month of the Women Day celebrations, and that's why how the whole month of March, generally we talk about the various aspects of women empowerment. I want to highlight the women empowerment concept from the media lenses. Which women are getting coverage while we talk about the women empowerment? Definitely with the empowerment, I would like to touch the issue of the entertainment as well. So Ujjwal, I will talk about the 2E, empowerment and entertainment. I know it's totally the different zone, and I'll try to summing up my views in the 5-6 minutes. But while we talk about the empowerment,
already 4 minutes gone. So in the next 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, four aspects of the empowerment that I would highlight. Generally, the coverage of women empowerment that we are getting in media is economically empowered women, technically sound women, educated women, and women who are in the domain of the man. So pilot is getting the coverage of the women empowerment, police department women are getting, but many women, those who are working in the field, those who know how to take the better milk from my buffaloes. So our empowerment criterias are also very stereotyped, and the media perspective of that looking at the women empowerment is also a stereotype. So when we talk about the role of media and in the context of the empowerment, I think I'm a little bit not this a critical view about the portrayal of women, and especially where a country like India, when we talk about the role of media in gender equality, I think we have to think about. And secondly, while we talk about the cyberspace of the women, recently I was looking the Facebook data. 31% of the women are having the account in the Facebook, according to Facebook data. Same way, Instagram is also 34%. So when we talk about the cyberspace and we are looking for the women's space, equal women's space in cyberspace, I would like to conclude, Ujjwal, with the 3 www. We talk about the World Wide Web, and we log in with www. I'm looking for the world where the worldwide women, where women get the equal space in cyberspace as well. With this little remark, I will conclude before your bell will ring. So thank you so much. And
Thank you. You actually brought in a full thesis in 6 minutes. I mean, it's not easy to talk about 4 types of issues connected to gender and media, and then bring it to entertainment and empowerment. And the interpretation of empowerment was very, very interesting. I would because it's being recorded, we will get the record later on, and I request the audience, at least the serious members of the audience, to once again go through, because there is a lot. Sagar mein sagar bolte hain na, so there's a lot in few minutes that each speaker is actually bringing forth. So when you come next time, in a very short while, you speak on how can we increase the participation of women in cyberspace, safe participation of women in the cyberspace. We now move outside India, and I think Professor Arpan Yagnik, who is from University of Pennsylvania, it must be midnight over there at this point of time, perhaps. And he is a person who is in the world of creativity and social media communication, social media marketing, the entire new media domain, as we know, in the context of cyberspace. So I would like to request you to speak on how this domain of social media communication and social media marketing evolving as a tool of brand building, and what do you think, what do you see going ahead, particularly in context of artificial intelligence and metaverse coming in. Over to you, Professor Dr. Arpan Yagnik from Pennsylvania State University.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me this time. I am in Haryana right now. I'm visiting you, so it's very much in the middle of the day, just as you all are. Very happy to be here. Lots of respects and regards to all the senior panelists and senior professors who might be in the audience. Hello to all the students and other participants. A lot of wisdom has been shared, and I resonate to a lot that has been said. A lot of my work is in the area of creativity as it applies to many spheres of life. As far as the new media is concerned, there are 2 ways to look at it. And especially what I see from my point of view, from where I sit and where I stand, is that new media, it thrives on creativity. It is this oil, it is the fuel that is providing the impetus and the speed to this entire manifestation, and a diverse manifestation of the new media that prevail, be it on the artificial intelligence side, the internet side, the television, the OTT platforms. Creativity is a prerequisite to break the clutter, and anybody who's here knows that the amount of clutter that is being generated, because there's just so much being generated. The ability to break the clutter comes from being creative. Now, since there are many senior leaders and the movers and shakers of the Indian media and communication education enterprise, I want to address them and say that without creativity, this field is not going to move as speedily as we want it to move. And from a very strategic and a competitive advantage point of view for India and its growth, creativity is much more needed. So when you take a look at the programs, the curriculums, while there is an expectation that the students who are going to go into these fields are going to be creative, there is not an explicit systemic and systematic attention which is given to the understanding and enhancement of creativity as it applies to the whole sphere of new media. So I encourage you to take a look at the different ways in which the training of creativity, the enhancement of creativity happens in your educational setup. I was just in Manipal, and there some 3 years ago, we set up a center for creativity enhancement. Just yesterday, I was in a school in Haryana where we were trying to, all the teachers need to go through a creativity training. It's a strenuous, good 10 to 15 hours between the 2 days. So in communication in media, there is a tremendous need for creativity related literacy, which is lacking in the Indian landscape. I am intentionally repeating this because I want to impress upon all who are there to invest in this. Because as we go from artificial intelligence to artificial creativity, which is the next frontier, whether we move from the human influencers to the virtual influencers, which are driving so much attention and craze and following, at the core of it is creativity. At the core of new media is creativity. Also, the technology that is coming into the picture is also providing certain affordances, which is giving rise and giving birth to new forms of creative expressions and creative proclivities and abilities. We are working on a concept called techno-creativity. So the technology, how technology fuels creativity, the tinkering of the technology and the reverse. So these affordances, the new media affordances, they are, it's like a mutation of creativity that we are seeing. And this has captured the attention, not just of India, but of the world, to be able to, hook someone in 5 seconds, 4 seconds. This was unthought of. We come from a scene where the movies were 3.5 hours long. And they were able to do the job, but now to be able to do the same job in 4 or 5 seconds, that's a new area. One of the earlier speakers, Professor Usha Rani, spoke about the different freedoms, which came from Amartya Sen, and there is the freedom from and the freedom to. India is at that stage where it is, moving towards the freedom to actualize its true creative potential. So I will not go on and on, but I will pause over here. And my urge to you for this evolving landscape, the new media landscape, the need is going to be creativity. So it is the right time to start investing in the systematic understanding and enhancement of creativity in our students and the future generations to come, so that the new media can be geared more towards the development of trust and peace and the annihilation of something which is referred to as the Viparit Gyan, which is also manifesting a lot in many different aspects of society. So with that, I will conclude.
Thank you. 5 minutes and 49 seconds. Thank you very much. And I'm a little less feeling guilty that you are in Haryana and you're not waking up middle of the night in US. I really appreciate this discussion. Is very, very timely. How we are moving from the human creativity to artificial creativity. Exactly what is artificial creativity? This is something of very significant importance at this point of time. Now that GPT-4 has also come up. You speak about creativity literacy. This is first coining that I've heard this word, creativity literacy. There's something very, very significant. Artificial influencers, I know there are already in Instagram some of the virtual influencers and artificial influencers. But to talk about creativity literacy as a practice, design thinking, I think is very close to design thinking perhaps. So you could dwell on that in the next round. You can also talk about, will AI blunt human creativity? How to break the clutter, one or two strong suggestions. In this context, let me note that my daughter is a digital strategist with an advertising agency, and she says that she is these days using Chat GPT to find out the right copy several times, because the human guys, the copywriters, are taking two nights what the Chat GPT is doing in few seconds or few minutes, and then she is customizing it to her need. I don't know whether that's right or wrong to do in a human interest, in our professional interest. So I would just request you to comment on these in the next round. We go to the next speaker, the last in the series, but never the least, and in continuation of what the last speaker has said, because she is also from the field of brand communication, marketing communication, advertising. So we have Dr. Pooja Mahesh from Dubai joining us, from Mahe, Dubai, on advertising. So Pooja madam, your observations on the new media landscape in the context of brand and marketing communication. Over to you, Pooja Mahesh.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thanks to Adamas University for organizing this conference, and yeah, I'm honored to be part of this esteemed panel. And hello to all the audience out there. Taking cue from what Ujjwalji said just now regarding how ChatGPT is being used to by the copywriters nowadays. So that I would say about in the field of advertising, that's a bad news in a way, because of the creativity, as Arpan was talking about, is being challenged, compromised, and a lot of people will be chucked out because of that. But I see in India, the good news is that as per the Pitch Medicine report, advertising market is to grow at the rate of 16% in 2023. So with this good note, I would like to talk about new media landscape and advertising. So three aspects broadly I would want to talk about here is that whatever we see, whether it was previously or now, content will remain the king. So as long as we are able to share the engaging and the shareable content and which resonates with the audience, we are going to rule as advertisers. Second thing is that audience always look for more personalized content. So whether the ChatGPT is there, the human touch will prevail for sure. So while we see, programmatic advertising in terms of the algorithm, the way digital marketers are reaching out to us, knowing our personalized approach, so that's it's working well. Then another aspect which is there is the platform. So as long as advertisers, we touch upon the right platform, knowing our target audience, where they actually are. And I think we use these platforms, chat GPTs, as in terms of helping us in terms of understanding our audience more, using Facebook and Insta or Google, numbers in terms of understanding more of where our audience are. It will help us in reaching out to the right audience at the right time. Of course, with this, the new media age, the challenges for advertisers are very many. One being the advertising frauds which are coming up. So advertisers have to, look into it, because a lot of the customers are on online platform, and when they are closing the deal, they need to be sure that they are making the right deal with the right people. Another challenge which advertisers are facing is that customers are blocking the ads, so they don't look for the ad. So they need to look for a snacking kind of approach, like blip words which are there, 30 seconds. You put forth to the audience wherein they can be glued. And another important challenge is the privacy. Wherein advertisers have to, reassure the audience that their privacy is not compromised in any way. In terms of the trends, if we talk about, audiovisual medium has always prevailed, medium, which people can rely more on, because seeing is believing always. So video advertising is there to stay. And all the more the importance of the thing is that as long as we are able to tell a good story, the audience are going to be hooked to what we are saying. So storytelling is the key. And if it is on a video medium, so in terms of the posters also, what we are seeing is that people are moving to motion posters, and they are enjoying the motion posters more. And native advertising will prevail because in terms of the way it is presented, it looks like an editorial content, so people go for it and they rely more on that. In terms of the future, if I talk about, which I have touched upon, definitely all of us are looking for personalized approach. So personalization is here to stay, and as long as we bring out the ads which are more personalized, it works. And we have the Alexa, we have the Google Assistant, we have the Siri, which has spoiled us enough. So voice advertising is also another area which is coming up and is doing well out there, because we look for these assistants when we are Googling. And a lot of changes we are seeing in terms of the AR, augmented reality, virtual reality, and the way the chatbot is being used. So we can call that it is more of a conversational advertising that we are seeing with the chatbots. And the good thing about it is that it's available 24/7. So customer queries are satisfied all the time, and which the customer is looking for.
Thank you. Thank you. Very well rounded and exactly within 6 minutes. But more important is that all aspects have been touched. I really appreciate content is king. I will only add context is the kingmaker. The content changes also according to the context. So that's a great point. Personalization and target group specific. That's another very, very critical point. Video advertising as the mainstay of advertising, storytelling techniques, and those students in the audience, please note motion posters. Search later on the meaning of it. I'm sure some of you already know it. Native advertising, yes. Native advertising has given rise to the concepts also of branded content and content marketing. These are other aspects where advertising and PR almost come together. I also appreciate the use of the concept of conversational advertising, which will become all the more important with AI and metaverse coming in. You might add immersive advertising or immersive branding as metaverse comes in. So we are at exactly 10 minutes past 1, 20 minutes to go to for this session to end. Maybe we can go 5 minutes or 6 minutes more. 8 of us, if I take 25 minutes, 3 minutes for each, including the questions that I asked, 3 minutes for each. So please now restrict yourself to half the time of the first round. So we move to Professor Suresh. I'm sure you are still there. I know you are a busy Vice Chancellor indeed, but if you could come back and speak about the question that I asked, how will the newer technologies impact journalism? How can quality and content of good journalism be ensured going ahead? Over to you, Professor Suresh. But sir, before you begin, I did not give the question of Pooja Mahesh. The question for you will be, how do you secure your media and communication career in times of AI and metaverse? We'll come to Pooja later on. And Professor Suresh, please.
Thank you, Professor Ujjwal. Absolutely, as I said, there are revolutionary changes that's happening in technology. And if you are following any of the social media platforms, it is so visible. I just happened to, during my recent visit to Delhi, I just happened to look for some neighboring resorts, and it's over a week since then. I continue to be bombarded with all kinds of resorts which I was never even aware they existed anywhere near Delhi. So day in and day out. So AI is certainly contributing in terms of taking media to the customizing content and increasing engagement, and they are being extensively used. In fact, there are newspapers out there in Europe and in the United States where they are using AI to provide customized content to their readers. Of course, in India, we are still yet to reach that stage. But yes, in social media, we do find customized content, which is, if you have the feed on Facebook, whatever you tend to watch more is certainly, gains prominence in your feed as against the normal content. So there is absolutely no doubt that in terms of engagement, in terms of, personalization, in terms of customization, AI is being extensively used. And of course, you have a lot of softwares which have come up, which are into auto caption, auto writing whatever you are speaking right now. These are all being taken care of with the advent of AI. Another area where AI is, because since you are asking me about specifically about the impact of artificial intelligence, I think that which needs to be also used. It's already, I am told that the University of Michigan has already started a project, and they are extensively using that. I hope that's extensively used by the Indian media also, and that is in terms of, I would say, monitoring and fake content, in terms of identifying fake content, that's being extensively used. So AI can be immensely helpful in filtering, fake content to a great extent. So that to that extent, it would certainly contribute to the credibility of media, which, and particularly digital media, which has been impacted by the infodemic or the fake content that's being circulated. So to a great extent, that would be really helpful.
Thank you.
Now, just one last point I just wanted to make that, but let me tell you, in this era of digitalization, in this era of new media, convergence technologies, media literacy has to be, given much more emphasis than what is being given today. It has to be an integral part of school curriculum. Our children are getting exposed. There is a larger societal impact, of media, and particularly, fake content, cyber crimes happening, cyber pornography, cyber bullying. So I think that there is a need for greater awareness at the popular level. You and I may be aware of the technologies, but a large number of our people, our population, is unaware of these technologies, and that needs to be, because they can be misled, misguided, videos can be manipulated, audios can be doctored, and photographs can be morphed. So this is an area where we need to give a lot of emphasis. Thank you.
Thank you. The media literacy point was the icing on the cake. Indeed, it's needed as a compulsory part of education everywhere. I really appreciate the application of AI in communication in general and journalism in particular that you also brought forth. Thank you very much, Professor Suresh. I believe this discussion can have many more manifestations as we go ahead. Professor Usha Rani, the question for you was put: how digital and social media can be positively used for development communication going ahead. Over to you, Dr. Usha Rani, please. Are you there, madam? I can't see you. Shall I go ahead with the next speaker?
She's there.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. You also come on video.
Yeah, I am on video.
Okay, please go ahead.
I am on video.
Yeah.
Okay, I come straight to the point. In the first round, I gave a theoretical perspective. In the second round, I'm giving the applied perspective of the new media landscape in development communication. I would like to cite the case of ASHA, the workers in the state of Karnataka. That is very successful model that is working under National Health Mission. And this is accredited social health activists. So they are using Asha Nidhi software to monitor the functioning of the Asha workers. They are from the community and they work for the community. It's working very successfully. Why it's working is there is an innovative use of digital technologies which are not geographical specific, because this rural urban divide is just a misconception now from the geographical variable, because it depends on social indicators, not on geographical indicators. Because of that, it has been very successful, and they have been able to deliver the goods. I don't want to go into the details. Now, how can I end this without referring to P. Sainath's Pari? The Pari is the greatest, archive, the People's Archive of Rural India that P. Sainath has created for us. It is feasible. He has shown us how it can be used, and he's even giving fellowships to journalists, to the scholars, and we should make use of this platform. And more than 1,000 villages have been covered. 1,000 villages have been covered. Their profiles are documented. Their lives are visible. So he has given the former rural editor, the only rural editor that India has can boast of till today, and he has made.
Your voice is not there.
The mainstream media failed to document to the rural lives. We neglected them. We relegated them to the background. Now, what the future is just one line, and that future, I feel, is we have to, with new media, we should be very sensitive to the space that we create for voice and participation. These are the two important variables if you are going to use new media in development communication successfully.
Super. The case studies of Asha and Pari both are great, and voice and participation, the critical points of new media for development communication. There cannot be a better conclusion on a talk on new media and development communication other than this, what you have said, voice and participation. Thank you very much. We move to Dr. Ambarish Saxena. Yes, impact on podcast and social media on radio, and how audio can become an immersive media in the world of metaverse going ahead. Over to you, Dr. Saxena.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. I left my presentation in the first round. I was talking about the podcasting. Now, how podcasting has affected the conventional broadcasting, though both are running simultaneously. If we look at the broadcast, the content and the presentation and everything on all India radio channels, including all the primary channels, this FM channels and all these channels, and then we look at the private FM radio stations, their broadcast. But nowadays we find that every channel has a podcast, whether it's a Radio City or Radio Mirchi or Big FM, they are into podcasting. So whatever from morning till evening, the broadcasting is happening. Alongside that, the podcast is happening. Now, many educational institutions have also gone on podcast, wherein the students are creating contents and they have opened a channel on the internet, and this all podcast channels are there. Now, what is the crux as far as the content is concerned and the quality of programming is concerned? That has got a tremendous change because of this immersive technology. Nowadays, so much innovation is possible in radio programming, wherein you can use different kind of applications, you can use different kind of editing tricks, and you can use multiple people, multiple voices simultaneously, and everything is immersed into making one composite program. So that's the beauty of the technology in today's time. And the real application, whether we talk about the artificial intelligence or whether we talk about the virtual reality, everything is applied into programming and creating quality contents, new kind of contents, innovative contents. One important thing that has happened, many would have overlooked, radio was always known for its local reach. In AIR, as I earlier said, the whole concept of local radio station was there. Even in the main channels of AIR, even the capital-based channels, the channels which are in the state capitals, they have a limited broadcast. Maybe the transmitter capacity is 100 kilometers, 150 kilometers. There is just one channel for national broadcasting, that is on shortwave. So earlier also, this broadcasting was in a way moving towards narrowcasting, but what the internet has done, this local nature of radio broadcasting has turned into the global nature of broadcasting. Like a big example of any university having a community radio station, earlier it used to be for its own community. Nowadays, with the help of podcasting, they are reaching out even to the audience which is placed in any part of the globe. So that is a big change in the nature of the radio broadcasting. Podcast has completely changed the concepts of radio broadcasting in terms of context, in terms of reach, and in terms of presentation, in terms of dissemination of the contents. So everything has got a change.
From narrowcasting to podcasting, how the journey has evolved, and how technological applications in audio have revolutionized the sound or the audio. Thank you for a great talk in such a short time in the 2 rounds that you have spoken. And for audience, young audience, students, silence is also a sound. Just think over it. We move to the next speaker, Dr. Professor Ruchikesh Jaggi. And the question that I had for you, how OTT, anytime viewing, on-demand video or media has impacted our culture, and particularly in context of children, where immersive media are evolving now in times of metaverse. I know it's a long question. It requires 1 hour or more to explain. I'm sorry, I just have 3 minutes. Over to you, Ruchi.
No problem, sir. I'll try to compress it as much as possible. I really don't know what's going to happen to children's content. I also don't know how is the metaverse, because that's not happening right now. That's the first thing. We have to understand that India is a very peculiar situation. In 2010, the scholar Hadenberg gave a phrase, the death of television. In 2018, Mereke Jenner said that we have reached from TV1 to TV4. Television is dead. But India is one unique context where TV1 and TV4 coexist and will continue to coexist. That's the first thing. We have to understand that the diversity of content, languages, viewers, infrastructure, and digital access distinguishes the Indian television ecology from any other ecology like the West and what they talk about. So that is, I think, a very important point to understand. And the staggering number of children audiences in India continue to create more and more demand for television content. Now, what Indian broadcasters are doing, they are launching new shows, and they are also taking the content to digital platforms. Like I mentioned earlier, the number of OTT platforms targeted at children are on the rise. The children's television networks are forging strategic partnerships. For instance, instead of just licensing international content, domestic broadcasters have directed their energies to commission original animated shows and build their content libraries, and they are also pushing Indian content to international markets with original IPs. And these are the kind of interesting developments that are happening in the space of children's content. It's now, how will creative digital technologies, metaverse change the form of this content? That only future can tell, because we are not seeing that right now. What is available, however, is a lot of interactivity with the child audiences, with the availability of touch screens. For example, today you can have your iPad in your hand, children can watch content, they can shake the iPad, and characters, genders can change. So, for example, creating gender inclusivity, 2 moms, 2 dads, a heterosexual parent couple. This is the kind of what, when we were talking about media literacy, when Professor Suresh addressed it, that is how this kind of interactivity is being integrated with children's content. So I'll leave it at that. And I think this is like too big a question, and I think it is for future content to help us understand how all of this would be integrated responsibly when we talk about digital cultures for children. Thank you for the opportunity.
Superb, superb. You've talked about unique media ecology of India and the TV digital convergence that's happening and the rise of intellectual property in media, particularly in today's times of convergence. Very well said, and thank you. Yes, metaverse is an animal yet unknown. We are only seeing either the tail or the what do you call, the ear or the trunk of the elephant. We don't know the elephant yet. Thank you very much for a very intellectually stimulating and a practical way of looking at this whole. And the television channels would love to hear what you are saying. The future of broadcasting is not that dull, as you have already explained. Dr. Sonal Pandya, how can we increase the participation of women in the cyberspace? Over to you, Dr. Sonal Pandya. Madam, are you there? If not, we'll move to the next speaker, please. Anyone can confirm? She's there?
She's there. She
Hello?
needs to unmute.
Hello?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Speak.
I'm audible now?
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Sorry. I would like to touch the entertainment content because the recent data that in mobile phone, 70% of the mobile data we are using for the entertainment purpose only in India. The question is, we don't mind that it is the choice of the audience how to use, but entertainment is not the homogeneous umbrella, first of all. And we hardly touch about the ethical content, especially when the portrayal of women is concerned. We are cracking joke on wife, especially the body size and beauty. So these are the very serious concerns, even in the OTT platform as well. We are making joke and mockery out of the status of women in entertainment content. So we have to frame the policy guideline that how we can serve the entertainment content in the social media. And it is a very serious concern as a woman and as a media scholar as well, I think. So this is the one point. Your question regarding the how to increase the participation of women in social media. I would like to emphasize that among the women users also, recent study conducted, women are in social media in which platform? More of in Instagram and Facebook. Not in a Twitter, because we all know that various social media platforms are also having the different zone of audience. So while you tweet, it is the intellectual zone. So the women are tweet is highly discussed the nationally, except they are a celebrity or the politically known women. So the women participation in the platform of a social media not merely the less, but in which platform women are more in numbers as compared to the other. So Twitter, they are less in numbers. That I would like to mention it here. The last point I would like to mention that we are talking about the more participation, but do you know that there is a social censorship on the women? Recently in Gujarat, one MLA has raised the question in the assembly that in the teenage women, we should not allow the phone because it increased the extramarital relation and the girls are falling in love with the other boys. So ban the phone to the teenager girls. And number of the caste in Gujarat, they are already passed the resolution that we are not allowed the phone to the teenage girls. So these are the area which is, I think, very seriously I'm having a concern about we talk about the censorship by the state, but what about the internal social censorship? What about the pressure which is local about the keeping more mobile phone? So information access is not that easy for the women. So I think again that is we need the cyberspace and respectful cyberspace for the women is needed, and I would like to address this issue in this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very rightly said. Social censorship of women. In fact, if mobiles are making girls fall in love with the boys, what were the boys doing then?
Yeah, so no censorship on men.
Exactly. Very well said.
Yeah.
Haryana panchayats have passed on resolutions of this similar type in the past. New media entertainment challenges for women, very well pointed out by Professor Pandya. Let's move to Arpanji, Professor Dr. Arpan Yagnik. The question for you: will artificial intelligence blunt creativity or help it? And break the clutter, the message that you had given. Can you give one or two concrete suggestions for young communication learners or professionals, how can they break the clutter in times of AI? Over to you, Arpan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. AI, I come from a point of view that technology and the field of media and communication doesn't work against each other. They work together to enhance each other. Yes, the current forms of expressions, there is a possibility that they may be dampened and people may be desensitized or not as much entertained or not as much enlightened from it. But the same technology, through its affordances, can ignite newer forms of creative and communication-based expressions. So while there is a chance, there is also an equal opportunity for something new to develop, and that's the affordances that it can give. And that's what I was referring to when I was talking about techno-creativity. One of the other things is that the field of media and communication, it is the right place for creativity to thrive. Amongst all the other fields within education, it is the field of media and communication that should, in my humble opinion, cheerlead and champion the notion of creativity. Right now, creativity exists only as an expectation. An expectation is not going to yield any creative output. We have to ensure that we provide a space, a process, and that enhancement of creativity within our setups for India's creative class and the creative industries to take it where it needs to be. Then this is going to be essential periphery that is going to drive the core of Indian economy and the Indian nation. Lastly, you had mentioned design thinking. Design thinking is a great way. Design thinking is a problem-solving technique. So as long as a problem exists, the need for creativity exists. This is where I deviate fundamentally from design thinking, because to me, when I talk about creativity, it is a way of, it's a mindset, way of life. It's how you apply in solving different problems, and regardless of the problem, it still exists. So there's a lot of opportunity, and if our discipline, if our field going further does not take the ownership of creativity, it will probably be somebody else, and we have all the competitive advantages that we have right now in our field. We will just be a mere follower. So we've got to be the leader and take charge of this.
Thank you. Artificial intelligence as an opportunity and not just a challenge. Very well spoken. And also, once again, underlining the concept of creative literacy and the role of the media and communication, education and profession to uphold the flag of creativity. Very well said, Arpan. Thank you very much for those encouraging and hopeful comments, because there is a large number of youngsters who are suffering due to this thought that AI will take care of their jobs. They can't reinvent themselves. They actually can. And the last question to the last speaker, Dr. Pooja Mahesh, how do you secure your media and communication career? What would you say as an answer to this to the young audiences here and those who will be listening to the recorded one? How would they secure their media and communication career in times of AI, metaverse, and all that?
So to the young media professionals out there, I would say definitely the career would be threatened if you do not keep pace with the latest developments which are coming your way. So be updated with whatever is happening around you and train yourself accordingly. And taking from what Arpan said about techno creativity, it's a very important thing which is required, because having said, like, however much we move on, the content and the approach to storytelling, that would remain important. And people would look for a human touch there. So that is definitely there. And the tools, the newer tools, technological tools that we are seeing, we should use them as assistants to enhance our productivity and creativity, rather than thinking that they will suck away or take away our jobs. So that is important. And I would like to end by saying that always in life or in career, be solution oriented and look for the problems are there. So there will definitely be some problems which will be there with the new technologies coming in. And if you would try and find a solution by keeping your expertise in mind, definitely I think it's a long way ahead.
Great, great. So storytelling of newer varieties, making use of technology as your assistant. That's one. And second message, solution-centric approach to anything of communication and media. I once again reiterate some of the key points so that they can be taken home and further researched upon. The need for media literacy by KG Suresh. And I like the use of the word fake narrative and not fake news, because if it is fake, it's not news. If it is news, it cannot be fake. So media literacy in all its forms. Dr. Usha Rani, the voice and participation in new media as a precursor to protecting and evolving development communication in new times. Great message there. Dr. Ambrish Saxena, technological applications in audio and moving from narrowcasting to podcasting and creating podcasting as a larger message and scope of the audio media, the radio media. Dr. Ruchikhet Jaggi, very interesting use of the word media ecology and how Indian media ecology is unique, how TV 1 to 4 coexist, and how television and the digital are converging and creating interactive media as well as we go ahead. Thank you for that. Dr. Sonal Pandya, very important point that she raised was of social censorship of women and the new media entertainment challenges for the women and how can we create safeguards against it. Professor Arpan Yagnik, new technology and artificial intelligence as an opportunity, and the concept of creativity literacy and techno creativity, the messages that can be taken home and further researched upon. And Dr. Pooja Mahesh, solution-centric communication function and storytelling using technology as your assistant and not your competitor. Thank you very much for the key points. I will end up with a few, not explaining anything on a few points, because there are media educators among those who are in the audience and among the speakers, and this is a great panel of speakers, I must say. There are people who are fashioning new syllabi under the new media situation or landscape. And for the new media syllabi, there are certain things that we must bring in, what we haven't seen in our times, or even when we started teaching. Concepts like AR, VR, AI, and metaverse as a component of media education. Concepts like creator economy, which is already $118 billion economy around the world, completely arising from what you create in social media. Creator economy, on the use of podcast, creativity in times of AI. So how can we really evolve creativity, and in that context, the creative literacy or techno creativity, the concept that have been already brought in. Media management and media revenue. We teach, or rather there's no teaching possible now. We mentor youngsters to create good content, produce content. Do we mentor them how to sell that? We mentor them how to make a YouTube channel, but do we mentor or give examples and case studies of how to monetize the YouTube channel? The time has come that we need to look at media revenues as well. Media literacy, that has already been brought in very strongly. Multimedia journalism. So there was a television journalist and there was a print journalist earlier. Today, a journalist goes to a spot of action. The first thing it does is a 256 characters tweet. Tweet is the first report. After that, a picture that goes in the portal. 3 lines that goes in the portal. Then full shoot for the television channel. Comes back and writes a report for the newspaper. Does a deeper research and writes a detailed feature for the weekend, either the magazine or the weekend supplement. So the same reporter is reporting for online, offline, on-air, all types of media. This multimedia journalism is the other new thing, including MOZO or mobile journalism. And in world of brand communication, branded content, content marketing, or native advertising, as has been already mentioned. So these are newer concepts which did not exist perhaps 5 years ago. And these concepts make some of the areas, apart from all those which we already continue to mentor. Without, we would not get into all those like the concept, the theories that we already have. But these are some of the new things that we must include in syllabi of media and communication learning as we go ahead. Thank you very much. Adamus, we took 10 minutes extra, but I think when you give 8 persons together and 2 rounds of discussion, 10 minutes to banta hai extra. Thank you. With that, bye-bye. From Shulini, from Solan, from Himachal Pradesh, this is Ujjwal Chaudhary signing off.
That was such an interesting discussion, sir, and it added to our knowledge and understanding of the media. The students attending the conference from here in front of me, they all were captivated by the insightful discussion. So I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the dignitaries, to the academicians who have been attending the conference, and to our dear students who have been a part of the discussion. And a special thank you to UKC, sir, for moderating this wonderful session, which will be a big contribution to the field of learning of media. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
I would like to get a recorded copy of this whole video.
Yeah, same. We are expecting the same.
Yes, to all the speakers, panelists, and also I request Adamus to make the learners, and I do not want to use the word student, learners of media and communication there, listen to this once again to understand so many good concepts brought forth from KG Suresh sir to Pooja Mahesh ma'am. Thank you very much.